I just think people are running from issues, and I don't think in this business you're supposed to run from issues. And the fact that everybody's running from the big elephant in the room involving the WNBA and the latest with Coach Stephanie White of the Indiana Fever going on a little tirade during a post-game press conference because people were accusing her of not supporting her player after Sophie Cunningham was essentially, knocked upside the damn head by Dejanay Carrington.
Let that register for a second. Fans had just watched a Fever player absorb contact serious enough to produce a flagrant 2 ejection. Yet the comments from Indiana's own head coach were interpreted by many as giving the opposing player the benefit of the doubt. The reaction online was immediate. Social media exploded, and the criticism became so intense that White soon found herself trying to explain what she meant and how much of the play she had actually seen before speaking. She later said she had not gotten a clear look at the Carrington foul in real time, and emphasized that, when she made the original remarks, she had not been able to repeatedly study the replay the way viewers could afterward. But by then, many fans had already made up their minds. The relationship of trust had been damaged, and critics saw the original response as a serious leadership mistake at a moment when they expected the coach to unequivocally support Sophie Cunningham. Instead of allowing the controversy to cool, however, White's next public appearance intensified it. During what might normally have been a routine pre-game media session, she delivered a passionate statement condemning what she described as hatred, fear-based rhetoric, and division surrounding the team. She forcefully rejected the attacks directed at her over the Cunningham situation, repeatedly striking the table for emphasis and choosing not to participate in the usual question-and-answer format with reporters. Then came the line that caused another wave of outrage. White said she intended to continue operating with love, grace, and humility, but added that people pushing the negativity could go to hell. For critics, that crossed a completely different line. A coach may disagree with fans, analysts, or media personalities, but openly using that language in the middle of an already volatile dispute only gave opponents more ammunition. It was especially striking because the WNBA is currently benefiting from enormous growth in attention, television interest, attendance, sponsorship value, and broader commercial visibility, much of it connected to a huge influx of newly engaged viewers. And now the head coach of one of the league's most closely watched franchises was responding to that scrutiny with a furious statement that many listeners interpreted as directing open hostility toward the same public that has helped fuel the sport's recent surge.
Blitz today. And I knew she would. As soon as that came out of her mouth, I was like, oh, she's going to get destroyed. She thinks whatever backlash she's been seeing was an issue. She hadn't seen nothing yet. You're telling your paying customer to go to hell. And you can't try to backtrack this now. That's exactly what you did. You see, this team gets too, I've said this before, this team gets too much attention for her. Plain and simple. That's why I've said before you needed an NBA coach. Somebody that can handle all the scrutiny that's going to come with being the coach of Caitlin Clark. That it is what it is. Every little thing is going to get broken down.
That decision from the front office completely changed the stakes. Instead of attempting to satisfy the fans calling for White's dismissal, Indiana leadership effectively chose to stand behind its coach while the criticism continued growing around her. It created a clear dividing line between the people inside the organization and the supporters demanding a change. From the perspective of White's critics, the franchise is now gambling part of its public reputation on a coach who recently told people spreading negativity that they could go to hell. That has only deepened the perception of a major disconnect between the executive level and sections of the audience. Management's message is essentially that outside outrage will not dictate internal personnel decisions, and that leadership intends to protect the coach it believes is doing the job properly, regardless of how loud the backlash becomes. Even Caitlin Clark eventually found herself addressing the controversy and attempting to lower the temperature. The Fever superstar said she had spoken privately with White, and reminded people that coaches are human beings as well, offering a much calmer perspective in the middle of an increasingly bitter argument.
Confidence about the coach in men's sports, that coach usually ends up getting his ass fired. Stephanie White could be on her way out. The fans appear to be done with her. We got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit the bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. Let's get right into things, man. We have to start right here. Okay, here it says, Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White was booed by fans prior to a game following backlash over her comments defending Chicago Sky guard Dejanay Carrington after her flagrant 2 foul on Fever guard Sophie Cunningham. Now, we all saw what she had to say, and then she went on this whole tirade before the game, basically telling everybody to F off, go to hell, as a direct quote. She told everybody to go to hell, and the fans booed the hell out of her before the game. You told everybody to go to hell, and the fans booed the hell out of you before the game started. This is courtesy of Alexa Philippou. Statement from Indiana Fever team president. The damn team president had this.
But the biggest question remains unanswered. Can supportive comments from a superstar really undo the damage created when large sections of a fan base believe their head coach publicly turned against them? The Indiana Fever are now navigating an incredibly fragile situation. It is difficult for any high-profile sports organization to function smoothly when its coach is being booed inside the home arena, while executives simultaneously reject calls for change. The tension surrounding the franchise continues rising, and every new statement or game threatens to reopen the argument all over again. The organization is betting that internal unity and strong backing from leadership will outlast the anger coming from outside, while critics believe the growing pressure could eventually become impossible to ignore. So where does this end? Does the front office continue protecting Stephanie White no matter how fierce the backlash becomes, or will pressure from fans ultimately force Indiana to reconsider its position? Drop your most brutally honest opinion in the comments below. Smash that subscribe button for more high-stakes breakdowns, and I will see you in the next explosive update.
Only be asking, we would be demanding that folks speak up and put it where the goats can get it. And get down to the bare bones about what's really going on here and not dancing around the issues. And what disgusts me, listening to so many of these ladies talk about the issues. You're smart, you're articulate, you're educated. You got facts, you got fervor and passion, you've got knowledge, you've got history backing you up. You got a whole bunch of things in your favor, along with the microphone and the lens, to look into the camera and address it with the realness, the sincerity, and the passion and the fervor it deserves. And y'all dancing. There's one person I'm gonna give credit for not dancing, and that's somebody I brought up earlier. That's Andrea Carter, my colleague at ESPN, who is sensational. Listen to what she had to say last night.
In reality, all of this emotion is coming from Steph White and what she said post-game about Dejanay, which she said it was a flagrant 2 foul, but she didn't think Dejanay was purposely going for her neck, and that Dejanay is a player that plays hard. That's essentially what Steph White said, and people were going crazy, calling for her job because of that post-game statement. And, you know, I'm so interested in all those people that were piling on and calling for Steph White's job in this most recent week. How many Indiana Fever games have you actually watched? How many games have you actually paid attention to watch the team and what they're doing out on the court? Are you calling for Steph White's job because of who she is as a coach, or are you calling for her job because you watched one clip and you're piling on and you're fueled by hatred and you're finding a space to exercise something that's not related to basketball at all? And that's where we are right now in the W, and that's why it's so frustrating. You can't just talk about basketball, and I look forward to the day, like Steph White said, when this is a space where basketball fans come to pick apart the game and the performances and come to celebrate the talent that we have, and where people are judged based on their basketball thoughts and what happens on the court, and their character is not associated with those things. And we're just not at that place right now.
Hot piece and butter. Hot piece and butter. You remember that game? Or should I say hot piece of butter rather than hot piece of butter? Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. You're getting closer and closer and closer, because that's where Andrea Carter was going. She's getting warm.
Expose 8. Stephanie White's emotional press room eruption and controversial comments are now creating a backlash so intense that some fans are openly demanding her removal. What happens when the head coach of one of the most watched teams in women's basketball ends up fighting not only critics, but portions of the very fan base supporting the franchise? What happens when executives inside a professional sports organization appear completely disconnected from the anger building outside their offices and decide to stand firmly behind the person at the center of the controversy? We are watching that situation unfold in real time, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. The Indiana Fever now find themselves caught in a spiraling public relations crisis, with Stephanie White positioned directly at the center of the storm. At this point, the argument has moved far beyond simple basketball results or the usual debate over wins and losses. The controversy has become a much larger fight involving leadership, player protection, organizational messaging, fan trust, and the way one of the league's most visible franchises handles pressure when everything is being examined under a microscope. And if you believe the temperature surrounding the WNBA had already reached its limit, this latest sequence has pushed the conversation even further. White's heated press conference, the emotional reaction that followed, and the criticism surrounding how she responded after Sophie Cunningham was hit have created an explosive debate over whether she is properly standing behind her own roster. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you are tired of watching every controversy get spun in circles, and let's examine exactly how this situation turned into one of the most divisive moments surrounding the Fever. To understand why the reaction has become so intense, we need to go back to the incident that damaged the relationship between White and a significant portion of the fan base. The controversy exploded after a heavily discussed and extremely physical matchup between Indiana and Chicago. During the game, Chicago player Dejounte Carrington was thrown out after receiving a flagrant 2 foul for contact that struck Fever guard Sophie Cunningham around the head and neck area. In a normal situation, fans generally expect the head coach to immediately defend the player who took the hit.
There's no logic in this league. Christine Brennan's on the money. I think you have a way out with this. I'm in agreement with Dre. I think this is the way out. But I don't think they'll do it because all we've watched this league do is get in its own way at every single turn. And at this point, I'm past looking for them to do the smart thing, the logical thing, what's best for business. I'm done looking for them to actually legitimize this league and not make it a pure clown show. I mean, Jason, we just had Sydney Colson, former Indiana Fever, talking about how they need to just go ahead and start their own Black and queer league. I mean, what are we even talking about? It's a circus, man. They have no clue what they're doing. This thing is full of emotion and no logic, and that is the problem.
So, Maurice, and be quick but don't hurry here, because Steve, I got a question for you that I want to get to, and then I want to transition into a little Pat McAfee. But this rally last night and this blowout victory of the New York Liberty, and I thought the New York Liberty played poorly, seemed to be undermanned, but I'm sure Stephanie White and Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox, they're all sitting around. They're all rallying around Stephanie, and this is going to be great, and we're going to make a playoff run, and don't you see how together this has galvanized the team? Do you think it has? Do you think this is going to lead to a run into the WNBA finals?
No, I think if they make a run, it's going to be because Kelsey Mitchell can't miss a shot. She's the most efficient scoring guard in the league. Caitlin Clark is third in the league in scoring and first in the league in assists. If they make a run, it's going to be because of that explosive backcourt. It has nothing to do with galvanizing around Stephanie White. Kelsey Mitchell has a max contract. She's going to be looking to secure an offseason, a long-term deal. And obviously there's a lot for Caitlin Clark to prove. Sophie Cunningham is going to be looking to get paid once again. Their play last night was more about the fact that the New York Liberty, for whatever reason, they got rid of all their athleticism. They couldn't guard on the perimeter at all. And Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell couldn't miss a shot. This was not about Stephanie White.
Steve, I got one more WNBA type question before we transition. I want to play you this clip of Ryan Clark. And on the pivot, he's chiming in on the WNBA, and he's chiming in on Enes Kanter and Royce White, making the point.
The expectation is simple. Protect your athlete, make player safety the priority, and communicate to the league that dangerous contact involving your roster will not be brushed aside. Instead, Stephanie White's response stunned many people watching. White, who had previously coached Carrington during her time with the Connecticut Sun, defended aspects of the play and said she did not object to the idea of a hard foul. When the full reaction to those remarks began hitting, White shifted toward a more personal and emotional message. She reminded people that she is human and repeated the idea that love would ultimately prevail. She also tried to emphasize unity inside the Fever organization, saying the players and staff remained connected and would not allow outside criticism to pull them apart. But for many of the people already furious with her, the change in tone did not repair the damage. Online critics immediately dismissed the emotional moment as manufactured sympathy and accused White of using tears and vulnerability as a public relations shield after the controversy had gotten out of control. Their argument was straightforward. They were not looking for another emotional explanation. They wanted accountability for what they believed had been a failure to defend a Fever player. That frustration quickly became visible inside the arena as well. During Indiana's game against the New York Liberty, sections of the home crowd booed Stephanie White, turning the reaction from an online argument into something the organization could physically hear inside its own building. The boos became an unmistakable sign that at least part of the paying audience had lost confidence in her leadership. At the same time, social media comment sections became increasingly hostile, with fans calling for White to be fired immediately. The controversy even moved outside the normal boundaries of basketball when Indiana's lieutenant governor publicly joined those demanding that the Fever replace her. At that point, what began as disagreement over a foul and a coach's comments had evolved into a much larger institutional headache. Yet this is where the organizational power structure of the Fever made the story even more dramatic. With sections of the fan base openly revolting, political figures criticizing the coach, and questions surrounding the team's internal culture intensifying, many observers assumed the front office might eventually distance itself from White in an attempt to calm the situation and protect the franchise. Instead, Fever leadership went in the opposite direction. Team president Kelly Krauskopf publicly backed White and praised the job she had done navigating one of the brightest and most relentless spotlights the league has experienced. Krauskopf said White had kept the group focused and together, despite everything surrounding them, sending an unmistakable message to critics that the organization was not preparing to abandon its head coach. Stephanie White, according to team leadership, still had their support.